All right. Can I go ahead and kickstart just to welcome the crowd? Hello. Okay. Fantastic. Great. Great. Oh, this is my screen a little bit blurry. Yeah. Thank you and welcome. Welcome everybody to the Youth of Service webinar. Super excited. Hope you're good. We have fantastic speakers all across Africa coming to speak to you today. Welcome to the YDS webinar. Our topic today, the road to 2030, accelerating youth action for the SDGs in Africa. It's going to be an exciting time. We have phenomenal speakers from across Africa. We're going to be starting anytime from now. Thank you very much, IT. I would like to know where we're all calling in from. I see that we're joining in slowly, but I'd like to know where we're calling in from. Please kindly introduce yourself. My name is Days. I'm calling in from Lagos, Nigeria. I'm calling in from Lusaka, Zambia. I'm calling in from Burundi. I'm calling in from Nairobi, Kenya. I'm calling in from Accra, Ghana. I'm calling in from Johannesburg, South Africa. I would like to know where you're calling in from. So please just put on the chat box, every one of us. It would be really nice to get to know you before we kickstart the session. So let's get to know you. Yoba, Chipasa, Dennis, Godswill, John, Kimfeli. Let's get to know you. Please kind of put in the chat box where you're calling in from and where on what your name is. Thank you so much. We really appreciate that. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Where you're calling in from, where you're calling in from, where you're calling in from. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Welcome to the Youth Service webinar. We'll be starting anytime from now. It's 3:58. We'll be starting at exactly 4 p.m. West African time. Hello, Dennis from Jalingo, Taraba. Nice to have you here, Dennis. Nice to have you here, Dennis. Hope you're well. Hope you're well. Hope you're well. Let's get more responses, please. Oh, Nakuru. Hello, John Nakuru. John calling in from Nakuru, Kenya. Wow. Keviwe calling in from Botswana, Gaborone. Great. Ayuba Suleiman calling in from Jalingo, Taraba State. Yusufu Adamu, where you calling in from Gombe State, Nigeria. Nice. Let's get more people share where they're calling in from. And it's just 3:58 and people are already coming in so early. I mean, that shows you how exciting this webinar is going to be in the next few minutes. Yusuf said is calling in from Gombe State, project lead of tree planting in Kwame local government. Enoch from Zambia, oh, fantastic. Looking forward to Zambia. Enoch, nice to meet you. Hope you're well. Let's get more responses. Let's get more people speaking. Let's get more people speaking very quickly. Let's share where we're calling from. Let's get more people. Yeah, and for those who speak French, please know that we are a very inclusive organization, and we've already made provisions for you to join the French room. So if you speak French and you have a little bit of difficulty in the English language, you can click on the French room, whereby you'll be giving them direct French translation for all through the course of the webinar. So once again, welcome everybody. Welcome to the Youth of Service 2023 webinar, The Road to 2030, Accelerating Youth Actions for the SDGs in Action. We have phenomenal speakers from across Africa who will be speaking with us and sharing their insights today. But before we go ahead, I'd like to know where you're calling in from, every one of us. Where you're calling in from? I'm calling in. I've seen Enoch from Zambia. I've seen Yusuf from Gombe. I've seen Kefale from Botswana. I've seen John from Kenya. I've seen Mumbi from Kenya. Nice to meet you, Mumbi. So nice to meet you. I've seen Dennis from Taraba. I've seen a lot of people. So let's keep it coming. Let's keep it coming. Let's get more people. We are one Africa, 54 nations, one Africa. Let's keep it coming. Let's keep it coming. Where are you calling in from? Just share it on the chat box. Where you're calling in from, so we can get to know one another more. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Godswill, Jeremiah, Mwai. Let's know where you're calling in from. I'm calling in from Lagos, Nigeria. It's sunny here today. It's been a bit cloudy, but fortunately it's sunny right now by 4 p.m. So I'm calling in from the beautiful and the beautiful city of Lagos, Nigeria. So I'd like to hear where you're calling in from. Diane, Deborah, where you're calling in from? Damilola, BT, Bitai, Essien, she's calling me from Nigeria. Nice to meet you. Nobi says it's 6 p.m. in Kenya. It's 4 p.m. exactly in Lagos, Nigeria. We are in for a wonderful ride today. We have more people joining in, and if you permit me, I'll just have to go through that again. Once again, welcome to the Youth of Service webinar 2023. And if you're new here, please kindly go on the chat box and respond by saying, my name is Dave, and I'm calling in from a particular country. I'm calling in from this place. We see Wai calling in Chakwira. Forgive me, I might not pronounce it correctly. Calling in from Malawi. Deborah Clement calling in from Bauchi, Nigeria. Jeremiah Amo calling in from Makurdi, Nigeria. Damilola calling in from Lagos, Nigeria. We have quite a lot of people already on the call, and it seems like it's going to be an exciting one. Once again, for those who don't know, my name is Ebuka Ukuna. I'm a program officer here at Leap Africa, and I'll be the host for today's webinar. It's going to be an exciting time of conversations, of learning, of questions, of answers. I want you to open your mind to listen, to learn, and do your best to see how we can all work together to achieve the SDGs for prosperous and wonderful Africa. We have Usman Kabiru from Sokoto, Nigeria.
Nous avons Monsieur Ousmane Kabiru de Sokoto.
Yes, Usman Kabiru, Sokoto, welcome. We have Deborah Olai.
La bienvenue. Nous avons Deborah Olai ici.
We have Deborah Olai, Kaduna. We have Sukami,
Lagos. De Lagos.
Lagos. Okay. Let's get more people.
Que plus de gens se connectent.
All right. Fantastic. Soon coming from Lagos, Nigeria. Deborah Olai from Kaduna. We're getting close to 50 in the house. We're getting close to 50 people in the house. I'll be handing over the mic very soon to Catherine Busari in about 2 or 3 minutes. But I just want to know, we are 54 African countries, 54 great nations: Morocco, Algeria, Nigeria, Ghana, Sierra Leone, Mali, Kenya, Tanzania, Zimbabwe, Zambia. I want to know, where are you calling me from? It's a wonderful day here in Lagos, 4 p.m. The sun is out. It's beautiful. We're going to have a wonderful evening, wonderful conversations. I want to hear, where are you calling me from? Chimpasa Mulanda says he's calling me from Zambia, Lusaka, Zambia. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful capital, Lusaka, Zambia. Let's get more people in the house. Where are you calling me from? Where are you calling me from? Share. Oh, I'm calling in from this, I'm calling in from that, I'm calling in from here. Let's get to know you. Joshua Olawi says he's calling in from Nigeria. Isabel Andam, Accra, Ghana. Lovely, lovely city, Accra, Ghana. Abu Edi says he's calling in from Calabar. Calabar is one of the most beautiful cities in Nigeria. Welcome, Edith. Insebe says she's calling in from Uganda, Rakaya, Uganda. Welcome. We are one big nation, one big continent. 54 countries, diversity, great one. Ikram calling me from Morocco. Ikram, nice to meet you. Towa Jesu from Nigeria, Lagos. Happy to have you here. It's a wonderful day indeed. Wonderful day. I want to say that from Lagos, Nigeria. As we go forward, I also want to ask one more question. We're talking heavily today. We're all very passionate about something, which is the Sustainable Development Goals, and there are 17 Sustainable Development Goals. For those who don't know, the Sustainable Development Goals are the goals set together by 195 countries in the year 2015 to see how we can make the world a better place. So I want you to also tell me where you're calling in from and what SDG you are passionate about. What SDG are you passionate about? For me, I'm passionate about zero hunger. I think it's an important thing. And also passionate about education. I believe those two are so important that if we achieve them, we can actually achieve the rest of the SDGs. So we have Violet Ukun. We have Violet from Rwanda. Violet, nice to have you here. Let's get more people. What SDG are you passionate about? What SDG are you passionate about? I've told you I'm passionate about education. I'm passionate about zero hunger. What are you passionate about? SDG 1, SDG 2, SDG 3, all the way to SDG 17. We as youth must begin to have a deep knowledge of the SDGs, a clear knowledge of the SDGs. So just for those who just joined, please kindly introduce yourselves on the chat box with your name, where you're calling in from, and what SDG you are passionate about. For those who just joined, my name is Ibuka Ukuna. I am the program officer here at Leap Africa, and I'm working together with my team to see how we can ensure that we promote volunteerism and community service in Africa through the Youth Day of Service. And I'm calling in from Lagos, Nigeria, and I'm passionate about the SDGs for zero hunger and education. So please, I want to know, what SDG are you passionate about? SDG 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we have Deborah calling me from Bauchi. She says she's passionate about education. We have Ella Tambalaweko from Malawi. She says she's passionate about SDG 4, gender equality and women empowerment. It is so important. We need to have an equal society. Equity is so important. We have Maya Onioshun from Oyo State. She says she's passionate about SDG 4, SDG 13, which is climate change, and SDG 17, which is all of us working together collectively to achieve all the goals. I want to hear more people. African youths, you are young, you are vibrant, you are exciting. Let's get more people on the chat box talking and sharing. Where are you calling me from? What SDGs are you passionate about? We cannot achieve the SDGs on our own. We need to collectively come together to achieve it. And I want to know, what SDG are you passionate about? Violet says he or she is passionate about good health and well-being. Movie says she's passionate about SDG 13, 15, 10, and 17. Fantastic, brilliant. SDG 13 being climate change, and SDG 17 being, a goal, collaborative action for all the goals. I want to get more people. John Wangi from Uganda said SDG 3, which is good health and well-being, and SDG 13, which is climate action. Fantastic. Joshua says partnership for the goals, also collaboration for the goals. Lebani says she's passionate about SDG 2, which is ending hunger, and SDG 12. So let's get more responses before I quickly hand over to my colleague, Catherine Busari. Abu Edit says he's passionate, or she's passionate about SDG 6, which is clean water and sanitation. Without clean water, over 800 million people across the world don't have access to clean water, which is such a sad state. And we must do everything we can to ensure that we have clean water access for all Africans. SDG 4, Fola Badmos, Ayuba Suleiman, SDG 3 and 2. It seems a lot of people here are passionate about SDG 3 and SDG 13. Sunday says he's passionate about job creation. Yes, that's SDG 12, and ending hunger. Annie of Forest says, good morning, my name is Annie. I'm from Edo State. I'm passionate about SDGs on good health, gender equalities, good education, teenage pregnancy. Asim says he's passionate about no hunger and good education. Yusuf said, oh, from Kwara State, passionate about SDG 4, quality education, and SDG 6, clean water, and SDG 13, climate action. Let's keep it up. Let's keep it up coming. I see that the chat boxes, I can't even keep up, but thank you. Let's just keep it up. Mohammed, and that's the energy of the African youth. That's the energy of the African youth. Mohammed said she's passionate about SDG 11. Dauda says climate action. Omotala from Lagos is passionate about SDG 2 and SDG 6. Kabiru is passionate about SDG 2 and 13. Sukami is passionate about SDG 8. Happiness is passionate about SDG 4 and 5, which is education and gender equality. Jeremiah is passionate about SDG 3. So, whoa, that's a lot of SDGs. That's a lot to take in. I mean, this shows that Africa is ripe. Youths are ready to take up this challenge, the challenge of that we have 7.5 years left to achieve these goals. And I 100% believe, with the passion we have, the energy, the hunger I see in this room today, by come 2030, we will definitely get to at least 80% of our achievement towards the SDG goals. Without further ado, please help me use the opportunity to welcome my colleague, Catherine Busari, who will be taking us on the next stage of this program. Hello, Catherine, hope you're well. Just to confirm if you can hear me.
Clearly, Ibuka. Hello, everyone.
All right, Catherine, nice to meet you once again, and over to you.
All right. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon from Lagos, Nigeria. Good evening, actually. It's about 4 p.m. here. And I imagine that it's different times wherever it is that we're calling you from. I know that a few of us are towards the evening. Some of us are much earlier in the day, but it's good to have everyone on the call. Just like Ebuka said, very excited about the energy that I can see in the chats. Definitely feel amazing to be in a room with persons that have the same goals or have similar passions. My name is Catherine Busari, like Ebuka shared. I'm program coordinator at Deep Africa, and I lead efforts for the Youth Day of Service. I'm sure you're on the call. You possibly saw the Youth Day of Service or the webinar creative on social media, and you're wondering what is this Youth Day of Service and why is everyone so excited about it? The Youth Day of Service really is about you. We're concerned about you. We're concerned about the environment. We're concerned about so many things, so many issues that plague us in Africa as a continent. And the Youth Day of Service really is that initiative that says, how can we get young people to be more active about the things that affect them the most? The Youth Day of Service really is a social impact campaign, but it also is a message that says that young people are youthful and useful. A message that says that young people are innovative, young people are passionate about leading change, and they will go out there in their numbers to make sure that they contribute to change in their communities. The Youth Day of Service is a month-long effort. It aligns with the International Day of the Youth, which we all know starts on the 12th of August, which is the day that the Youth Day of Service action kicks off. So the Youth Day of Service runs from the 12th of August to the 31st of August. And during that period of time, you can expect to see young people leading change in their communities through the lens of the SDGs. If you take a pause here and just think back to when the SDGs became a thing, and I'm saying that to sound as youthful as possible, but a few years ago, about almost 8 years now, a group of people sat down together and said that and put together the SDGs. You know, if you remember the Millennium Development Goals, I remember that that's where the SDGs stemmed from, and it really stemmed from the fact that we have certain issues or certain social issues that we need to pay more attention to, just so that we can have a sustainable future, and just so that people that come after us or even us ourselves, you know, are living the kind of life that we would like to live. So the goals touch each and every one of us. And I've heard people say, do the goals really affect me? You know, was it created for me? But if you can think back to when you had to complain about a bad road, or you had to complain about poor educational systems, or you had to complain about the fact that there was conflict in certain places, then you realize that the SDGs really affect you and I. And who better to lead the movement apart from us young people, because we're the most impacted on a very youthful continent that Africa is. So the Youth Day of Service, like I said, is a program, but also a message that says that young people are youthful and useful. And while we're doing this, first, I think the one that's dearest to our hearts is to make sure that we're accelerating action on the Sustainable Development Goals, which are, I think, called the global goals now. Also, to make sure that we're changing the narrative where young people are concerned, but showcase Africa's youth as a solution and not the problem. Also, we want to be able to inspire action in Africa's youth. We want Africa's youth to start to think more from the problem-solving lens. You know, when they see problems in the community, they're not just sitting down and saying, "Oh, let the government come do it," but then we're realizing what our role as citizens are, and then taking the right steps to make sure that we're bringing solutions and solving those problems. And for us also, it's about volunteerism. A lot of young people have amazing ideas and think that they have to wait for funding just to make that idea or that dream come true. But for us at Leap Africa, we're saying the Youth Day of Service is about going out with your friends, with your family, with people around you, and saying, how can we solve a problem? And doing that without expecting a reward, because the reward in itself is creating or delivering a sustainable future for yourself and those that come after you. And the Youth Day of Service is also about community. For connecting project leaders to volunteers across different locations. If you're on the call right now, if you don't know what we're about, go on to www.youthdayofservice.org to connect with project leads or volunteers in your location. And the Youth Day of Service this year, just like last year, is brought to you by key partners, one of which is Dow Chemicals, ably represented today. You get to hear more about the representative of Dow. And also, our other core implementing partner right now is Child Fund International, the African offices, which are working with us to make sure that young people across 9 specific African countries are on board to lead action where the SDGs are concerned. But we're very excited to have you. I'll just say that again, if you're joining and you're wondering what we're talking about, please go to our website, www.youthdayofservice.org, to look up for the Youth Day of Services and see how you can join passionate, energetic young people just like yourselves to lead change and advance the Sustainable Development Goals. It's great to have you. I'll hand over to Ebuka right now. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Catherine. I mean, the very, very passionate speech you gave there about the UDF service. And indeed, if there's anything I took away from what you said, is that the reward for doing great work is actually the better future we are trying to create. The reward for volunteering, there's actually no reward. The greatest reward we can actually get is a better future. Better future we are all creating as young individuals, because I mean, SDGs will affect us the most. So once again, thank you very much, Catherine Pisari, for such a profound speech on the SDGs. Without further ado, I will be welcoming the next guest who will be giving us a welcome address, Amabel Wakama, who is the Director of Programs for LEAP Africa. Over to you, Amabel. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ebuka. I'd like to cut in here and say that Amabel unfortunately can't be here. She's in transit, but she will be ably represented by the program manager at LEAP Africa, Osarina Kenzoa.
Catherine, she's on the call. She's on the call.
All right.
I've been on the call. Well, thanks, Catherine. Apologies. I had let Ebuka know that I was able to get in on time. Thank you, Catherine. Apologies for that confusion. But yes, I'm here and I'm very happy to be here, and really appreciate the opportunity to give the opening remarks or welcome address. And just want to say a big welcome to everyone who's taken time out of their days to be here right now, especially joining from all over Africa, all over Nigeria. Thank you so much to our esteemed panelists who are also taking time out of very busy schedules to be here. It's a real privilege and honor to have you feature on our webinar. And of course, one of the main reasons why we're here is really to center our work on SDGs in Africa, especially as it relates to young people. And one thing, you know, over the last few months, I would say, I've had the opportunity to travel and be in very many different events and discussions, and a lot of things have come up regularly about impact, SDGs. And the data is quite clear that in Africa, we are, for the most part, behind on SDG targets. And on the flip side of that, the consensus is also very clear and glaring that it will take young people almost singularly to be the ones to help us accelerate and meet these targets by 2030, if we are to meet them at all. And that is both exciting and worrying in that for our young people to be able to do that, they need to be properly equipped, upskilled, you know, empowered to do so. And it's a little frightening in that, you know, we need something needs to make them do that. They're not just going to do it without something to precipitate them to action. And I think this is where the Youth Day of Service comes in, and this is where it is extremely imperative, and it's something that we're very proud of at LEAP Africa. Because what we're trying to do is, what YDOS is aiming to do is to galvanize young people, to mobilize young people, and to optimize young people to be able to achieve the SDGs, to be moved to implement SDG-focused change projects, to do things in the communities, because it's only by that collective effort across the continent, happening concurrently, happening in tandem, that we can even start to really reach those goals, to meet our targets. And it's exciting because, you know, we have the numbers, we have the critical mass of young people on the continent that can do this. Now, the goal for us is that how can we get as many of these young people that we have, 70% approximately, across the continent, to be that excited and inspired to go out there and do something that is SDG focused, do something that changes the communities, the immediate environments. And we have put it upon ourselves in partnership with different partners like Child Fund, like DAO, like BSG, to say, how can we even resource these young people to be able to do this in little ways, and to the extent that is possible within their spheres of influence. And it's very exciting that this webinar is one of the ways that we are starting to galvanize, to excite, to bring up the consciousness of SDGs, of impact in the minds of young people. And what we're hoping, not just doing it for today, but seeing how that cascades over the years to come, how does that cascades into the indirect beneficiaries that will benefit from those change makers that just dared to go out and do something that was impact focused. Thinking about the fact that it creates this ripple effect that cascades, that goes through across horizontally, vertically across the continent to get other people inspired, other young people who see their peers or people who are like them do things and make a difference, and then they're inspired. So we're hoping that it gains that kind of traction, not just for today, but for the future, so that we do meet our targets, so that by 2030, we're all together gathering and giving each other high fives to say, you know what, we did it and we can do even more. Who knows if we can even go beyond what the targets have set out, you know? So it's very exciting for us because we see this as something that will live on. We see this as something that is almost like a legacy program, that the ripple effects will be felt far and wide for years to come. That's the hope, that's the dream. So as much as we're gathering here and we're excited about what we're going to talk about, I'm looking forward to hearing the panelists. I know that there's so much more beyond just today to look forward to, so much more beyond just today to focus on, to be aspirational towards. So I just want to say thank you once again for taking that time to come together, put our heads together, think through these things, be inspired to take action, and basically be one of the people that sown seeds that we expect to have so much fruits in the future. So again, thanks for the opportunity to speak. Thank you, Ebuka, my esteemed colleague. Thank you, Catherine. Thank you, panelists. Again, I look forward to hearing the conversation. I know the people who are going to be speaking, and honestly, they're a world of wisdom, perspective, you know, understanding the context, you know, so it's going to be an amazing time together. I'm looking forward to it. So welcome, sit back, relax, and enjoy the rest of the hour. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amabel. If everyone was physical, I'd have told them to give you a standing ovation, because that was indeed a very powerful speech. If there's anything I got out of it, was the fact that you opened our minds to see that we could act. Why do we have to aim to just achieve the SDGs by 2030? We could actually go beyond the target set for ourselves. We can actually do much more as African youths. So thank you so much, Amabel Wakema, Director of Programs, Leap Africa. Thank you once again for the inspiring speech. It's always good to listening to you. So without further ado, we're at the crux of the reason why we're here today, which is, you know, the conversation on the SDGs. I'm gonna go straight into the panel session. If you will have me, I would like to just introduce the panelists to you. We have three panelists from different parts of Africa, and a very diverse and inclusive panel session. So I'll just start with the first speaker, which is Mubi. Miss Mubi Kiga is a public affairs leader for Africa. In her role, she is responsible for developing and implementing integrated multi-channel internal and external communication plans that protect, build, and drive DAO's reputation and brand with key stakeholder groups across key DAO operations in Africa. She serves as the co-chair of Manufacturing Task Force, the American Chamber of Commerce and chair advisory board at the Young African Leaders Initiative, Yali East Africa Regional Leadership Center. She is also the immediate former vice chair of industrialization and enterprise development sector at East Africa's largest business organization, Kenya's Private Sector Alliance, KEPSA. Please help me welcome Mubi Kiga. Thank you very much, Mubi. Welcome to the panel session.
Thank you.
And thank you very much, Mubi. I'll go next to Fatima Umar. Fatima Umar has over 7 years of experience in development currently. Fatima is an SDG impact analyst at the United Nations Development Program, focusing on driving public and private sector investment towards sectors with the biggest needs and impact. Her experience spans across areas of sustainable finance, impact investing, policy and advocacy, partnership, amongst others. She has supported interventions aimed at increasing access to finance for small and medium enterprises across several sectors. Before joining the UNDP, Fatima worked with the private sector to provide business development support and provide resources to support vulnerable communities in northern Nigeria. She's committed to making finance work towards the attainment of the Sustainable Development Goals. Please help me welcome Fatima at the chat box. Fatima, welcome. Nice to have you here. Hello, Fatima. Just confirm if you can hear me.
Yes, I can. It's lovely to be here.
All right, welcome, Fatima. And last but definitely not the least, is Honorable Michael Oyango. Michael's work has always and continues to be about empowering Africa's forgotten bottom billions. He's a thought leader in the future of work, fourth industrial revolution. He leads and works around emerging technologies, economic empowerment, serving in varying sectors across platforms amongst interdisciplinary sectors within government, NGOs, and the private sectors in Africa and globally. Honorable Michael is the founder and agenda setter at the Forgotten Bottom Billions Africa. Honorable Yango was previously a national consultant who supported the design and rollout of the SDG Innovation Lab, UNDP. He has served in various boards, including the member of Distributed Ledgers and Artificial Intelligence Task Force, Ministry of ICT, Kenya. Honorable Michael is a Global Fellow, Social Innovation Rockefeller Foundation, and a Skull Foundation Fellow 2019. Welcome, Honorable Michael Oyango. And without further ado, I would like to welcome our phenomenal moderator for today, Ijoma Kalu, and I'll hand over the mic to Ijoma Kalu. Over to you, Ijoma. Thank you very much. Have one.
Thank you so much, Ebuka. Thank you. And you're welcome, our panelists. Thank you, Fatima, for joining us. Thank you, Mumbi, for joining us. Thank you so much, Honorable Michael, for joining us. We're happy to have you here on this conversation. For those who are just joining us, we are discussing the topic, the road to 2030, accelerating youth action for the SDGs in Africa. This is hosted by LEAP Africa under the auspices of our Youth Day of Service program, which is galvanizing young people to be volunteers towards achieving the SDGs in their respective regions. The conversation here today is going to be drawing from the insights of our panelists who have graced us with their presence. Thank you so much once again for being here. Hello, Mumbi, do you want to say hello to everyone? Fatima, you can also say hello to everyone before we continue. And Honorable Michael, I saw your video for a second. Okay, I see you now. Thank you so much for being here. Yeah, so we're all here. Hello, 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 everyone. So thank you so much. So we're here having a conversation about Agenda 2030. And the question would be, what is the agenda? What was the UN's Agenda 2030 all about? I don't know if Fatma wants to give us a brief recap just for people who are not aware of what the UN Agenda 2030 is all about before we go into the session.
All right, sure thing. I generally differ from calling it the UN Agenda 2030 because calling it the UN Agenda implies that it is owned by the UN. But that's actually the opposite of what the SDGs are. So the Agenda 2030 are a set of global goals that were designed for the people, by the people. So it was designed in close collaboration with stakeholders across multiple settings, multiple countries, both the public sector, the private sector, building upon the learnings from the Millennium Development Goals. So these goals and targets and respective indicators represent the needs of people across the world. There are 17, they're interconnected, which is what I find most interesting about them, is that even when we have favorite goals, the SDGs are interconnected such that action in one goal ultimately affects actions, positive or negative, across the other SDG goals. So in summary, that's what they are, a blueprint for what human beings need, and more like a guideline to how we can also achieve these needs.
Thank you so much, Fatma, and thank you for the clarification as well, because there are some of us on the call today who, use the terms interchangeably, but you have done well to school us, and I really appreciate that. Thank you. So I'm just going to go over the room from Fatima to Honorable Michael and Mumbi, and the question is, the Agenda 2030 was set in 2015 rather, and we are halfway through that timeline to 2030. So while we acknowledge the significant role that has been put in by the private sector, the public sector, and just private citizens to achieve these goals that were set. What do you think are the gaps that are still, very open towards addressing the SDGs? What are the gaps that you see in addressing the SDG goals? I think I'll start from Honorable Michael. You have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, and good evening. I'm actually in Korea, and it's past midnight here. But yes, but without a doubt, for me, it is very important to be on this call because within the audience of, if I can just check right now, of the 74 people who are actually online, I am literally talking to presidents, I'm talking to ambassadors, I'm talking to prime ministers, I'm talking to CEOs, and I say that very, very seriously from the bottom of my heart. I was attended 2 days at a UNESCO summit here, and it was the 20th anniversary celebration on safeguarding the intangible cultural heritage. And it's very disappointing that I was the only African in the whole conference celebrating a global initiative. But again, I think it's important that I should say possibly why that is the case and that's why that has happened. As people on the call and as young people, you have tended to give up your right to play your role in terms of governance, in terms of demanding and rightfully being on the table. I think it's the reason why, as a continent, we have not achieved and we've not reached where we should have, is because young people have relegated and gone onto the sidelines and let those of us who are older than you lie to you and literally keep calling you the leaders of tomorrow. And I was very happy with the chat that I've been hearing and the things I've been hearing on the call earlier on. So I think I have to say that for things to happen, you literally have to grab the opportunities and don't let us tell you this cannot be done, you're not ready. We do not want to hear your voices because whether you like it or not, you are the majority. This is the youngest continent in the world with the biggest population of people under the age of 30. So really, you are mad not to be in charge and not to say that you're not on the table. So I think we've got to stop saying that we don't have opportunities, we're not there. And you've got to create those opportunities for yourselves. And I was very happy when I was hearing about Leap Africa introducing what they do and how they engage, and already giving some very clear things on what it is that you must and you can do. So I think let's move the conversation away from why things have not happened to how things must happen and what you are going to do individually and collectively to move the needle and to get us to happening. You've heard how I have addressed all you people. I've called you your excellencies, I've called you ambassadors, I've called you CEOs, heads of NGOs, musicians, because that's truly who you are. But take up those positions now, but most of all, you've also got to be honest with yourselves. Sadly, a lot of young people want to get into positions of influence so that they can also have access to the same tools of power and be able to make a quick buck. So we're going to say some of the truths here, because if you don't say the truth, we're not going to solve our problems. So my challenge to all of us who are here on this call is let's make this an agenda of what do we do from today? How can those of us who are on this other side help you collate, help you come together, and help you move the needle forward. Let me stop there and give my colleagues also another opportunity.
All right, thank you so much, Honorable. Mombi, would you like to say a few words?
Yeah, of course. I think after Honorable Michael Onyango has talked, and he's correct, and I won't repeat what he said because I think we have the same ambition. We are so ambitious about the young people of Africa. We want them to really come to the table. But also I'm happy because you've seen them really coming up and they are speaking up and they're taking their position now, and we can feel it, and they understand their role today, but we just need to keep encouraging them. But you asked what are the main gaps for me, and if you looked at the SDGs I'm passionate about, the last SDG, the 17, where partnerships are built. Fatima said all these SDGs are interconnected, but we are implementing them in perhaps isolation. I wouldn't say that, but of course you can find that, especially in the African context. How do they really come together? And I think that's where the power of partnerships comes in. And that's why we are here. We are saying, let's come together and do something together. And I think once you start thinking what partnerships could do and why you can drive through that SDG 17 and how you can bring all these others together, then you start making progress. And as Amabel said, our continent has actually moved backwards in terms of the achievement of SDGs. Of course, we faced COVID-19, it has dragged us backwards, but still, even in the context of a global system, we are still behind anyway. So you compound issues by really just, when you short circuit a system, things fall apart. But how can we really create that resilience through very, very good partnerships? So for me to answer your questions when it comes to what are the pressing gaps, those are the pressing gaps. How really do we create partnerships? And seeing the people who are on this call, Zambia, Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya, Uganda, you know what? Our borders are real borders, but really this continent is one. And partnership will enable us bring those countries together and make a continent and have a joint agenda. So we are not talking about the young people of Kenya. We are not talking about young people of Zambia. We are not talking about young people of South Africa. We are talking about young people of Africa. If we can find that path, and if people like Clip Africa are able to find us the path to that table, then we bring everybody on board. We will be felt, we will make the achievement we want, and this is where we need to really, really start. So I'll stop there, but then we can really look deeper and see where then can we then bring that partnership on board.
All right, thank you so much, Mumbi, for your words. Partnerships and youth action. Those are the gaps that we need to address, according to Honorable Michael and Mumbi. Fatima, do you have a few words to say about the gaps towards achieving the SDGs?
I do. I am actually right there with Mumbi and Honorable Michael. I was at a conference sometime last year. It was an investing conference, an impact investing conference, mobilizing resources for the SDGs and all the usual talk. And it was very interesting because in the plenary, we had all of these conversations about the opportunities that Africa has, turning all of the challenges into opportunities because they are in fact opportunities. And then we go into the Africa side section, and it was an empty room. And I thought it was really indicative. I wasn't sure what it was indicative of, whether it was indicative of interest or indicative of just a general attitude that we have when it comes to talking about partnerships for development. It's one thing that has been my core focus is, really speaking to the private sector, speaking to the public sector, making sure that we put our monies where our mouth is when we talk about sustainable development. Oftentimes, I think one of the biggest issues that we see with COVID-19, with Russia and Ukraine, with climate change and all of that is that governments and private sector are not necessarily putting their resources where these opportunities are, or not putting the resources in the way that they would be able to scale impact to the local communities. So I think that's a big gap. And I think mobilizing partnerships with the people who these issues affect, whether it's stakeholders on the ground, whether it's rural women, whether it's young people, women and girls, persons with disabilities, all of the people that are affected on the daily by the challenges that our development context face, mobilizing partnerships with these people, with the people who make the policies, with the people who hold the purses. All of these people need to be able to come together in a way that will be able to scale the interventions that we keep talking about.
All right, thank you so much, Fatma. Fatma has spoken about, policymakers, government and private sector representatives coming together to collaborate. That leads me to a question that I had for Honorable Michael. How does this collaboration work in your own view, in your own opinion? How do you think? Fatma has given us some information and thoughts about that. What are your thoughts? How does this collaboration happen?
So simple. So, I'm a strong believer in using what you have and using what's in your hand. So one of the things that we do with 4BM, which stands for Forgotten Bottom Millions, is that we've created communities on WhatsApp groups. And we started doing this in about 2017. So before, WhatsApp only had 252 maximum members. And COVID was a fantastic time because at that time, a lot of people turned to WhatsApp. So a lot of people got to know each other. They got to engage with each other. And because a WhatsApp group is formed under a common initiative or a common subject matter or a common goal, you'll find that people who will be there already have a common agenda. So I'm proud to say that currently, within Kenya, we work across so Kenya, we've got 47 counties. And, primarily, we've got a lot of young people who have come together because of various initiatives that we begun through our WhatsApp groups and have gone ahead and have formed initiatives. So let me be practical about this. So, for example, every single Friday, across all our WhatsApp groups, and just to give you some context to this, reach about 800,000 people every single week through WhatsApp and through other platforms. And so every single Friday, we have an opportunity for anybody within our WhatsApp platforms to sell whatever services, whatever produce, whatever products that they have. So you'll find that people who are interested in business on Fridays, they'll be more prominent in terms of front-facing within our WhatsApp groups. And you find that then they begin to engage amongst themselves, and they begin to also take offline discussions that enable them to grow in various ways and in various means. So I think one of the things that I want to tell people on this call, we actually have everything that we need. In fact, I will say this, and I know we're people of different faiths here, but irrespective, if you're a Muslim or if you're a Christian, the Bible and the Quran all have the Old Testament. So if you go to Exodus 4:2, it says one thing. When Moses went to the mountain and God told him, go and set my people free, Moses' response to God was, but what do I have? And God's response to him was, what's in your hand? My dear fellow Africans, the phone that you have in your hand is such a powerful tool and gadget. And it's what you do with it that can and will determine where you go next. So let me leave it there because I want my other colleagues to also input in. But like I have just given just one example, and there's so many other examples that I can give. And our groups are very eclectic in terms of how they've been put together and who's on them. And the most interesting thing about the groups that we have, we actually do not set the agenda for any of the WhatsApp groups that get information or are affiliated to us. The only thing that we do is that we have a central depository of information which is fully verified and which we provide at no cost. Nobody pays a penny or a cent for it. And those admins are able to come into our central depository grab whatever information they want, and take it back to their respective groups. So what I'm trying to say is that the principle of self-organizing is not that difficult. It is being done, it is happening. And as I'm speaking to all of you here right now, each and every single one of you are at least, and I can guarantee you are at least on a minimum of 3 WhatsApp groups. So there's a practical example as an answer to that question.
All right, thank you so much, Honorable Michael. Honorable Michael has spoken about the need for using the communities that you belong to spread the word about addressing the SDGs. Thank you so much. I have a question here for Mumbi. Mumbi works with PAL. And the question here is, how do companies align their business strategies with the SDGs while positively impacting their communities and doing their business, but also aligning the strategies to solve the SDGs as well? Over to you, Mumbi.
I mean, that's a very fair question. And now more than ever, this whole sustainability and sustainable development doesn't only belong to government and the private sector. For the past several years, they have come on board proactively to really think how their businesses can really align and contribute significantly to the SDGs and even beyond. And even they are defining their own sustainability goals within organizations. And this is not only for companies like ourselves, a multinational. We are talking about multinationals, Pan-African organizations, even African organizations. We are seeing significant attention being placed on what we call sustainability. Then they are taking the word sustainability and they're saying, what does sustainability mean to my company and the environment where I operate? And this question is fundamental. And this question, we can see it really activating really great outcomes in the community. I'll give you an example. Why would a company like ourselves, which is a science company, everything is somehow based on science, and you look at our agriculture, look at even the climate protection and the things that we're talking about, sustainability, circular economy, circularity of materials. Why would a company like ourselves, what would they think sustainability means to them? And this question needs to be really taken to a bank, to a retailer, to a supermarket, even a small social entrepreneur. They need to think, what does sustainability mean for me and the community that I serve? I'll give you, for example, in manufacturing, which is one of the significant sectors, for example, how do we think about end of use, end of life of a product? How do we think about it? Do we produce it while thinking about the end of it so that we already anticipate what will happen to it at the end of life? These are the type of questions that companies are really, really thinking about. We just don't not want to produce phones, but we know that a phone has different components. It has different elements to it. But when you're producing this item, what does it mean? What do I need to think about? But 10 years to come, how will it be transformed into something useful? How will its life be extended so that we can extract it from the environment safely? For example, those are just great examples. If you're an IT company or a tech company, how do you use your technology to think about how you can enable markets to develop or to really appreciate sustainability? So the private sector has really come on board, and the private sector is now actively engaged. And for me, being here and contributing to Leap Africa's project of Youth Day of Service is really a commitment towards that. And alongside that, alongside the 17 goals, we create our own ambitious goals aligned to the SDGs, but they are really ambitious. So we have our own personal goals. So I would say that we are creating business strategies that are aligned to sustainability, to the future of our planet in full, and the future of our communities that we serve. And this is not just a fake or a non-issue, it's a major issue and a very, very, very important issue for us.
All right, thank you so much, Mumbi. Mumbi has charged us to think about what sustainability means to all of us as private individuals, as private organizations, companies here. What does sustainability mean to you? How are you making sure that your product and your service are going to be there for a long time and are reusable and can create more value for people? Thank you so much, Mumbi, once again. Fatma, I have a question here for you. We understand that empowering women and girls is vital for sustainable development. So how can we create more inclusive opportunities for this demography as we move towards achieving the SDGs in Africa? Over to you, Fatma.
Thank you. Before I respond to that, I would want to just chip into what Mumbi has said with regards to businesses integrating sustainability. So UNDP has what we call the SDG impact standards. They're basically a guide that supports companies, all kinds of companies. It doesn't matter whether you're a very little pet shop or you are a multi-million-dollar enterprise. All enterprises to really think about the way that they're creating impact and the way that they are defining sustainability, like Mumbi said. So looking at the entirety of the value chain that you operate in as an entrepreneur or as an enterprise, how are your actions directly or indirectly affecting the people that you relate with? Whether or not, if you were an agripreneur, for example, how are your actions affecting the smallholder farmers you interact with, or the distributors that transport your goods, or the person that you're buying your fertilizers and seeds from. So, just thinking from a holistic standpoint as opposed to a reporting standpoint, a lot of enterprises paste SDG logos and say, oh, we're contributing to SDGs 1 and 2, but in reality, beyond just reporting what SDGs you are contributing to, is really thinking about how your actions and being very deliberate and intentional about how your actions are affecting all of your stakeholders across the value chain. So yeah, and then to your question on women and girls, I think the very first thing that I could think of as a way to really integrate women and girls into the work that we do in our daily lives is to not think about it as an add-on. So you design a program and then you have a small gender component to it. It automatically makes it a footnote and it loses priority. So when we have conversations with policymakers, for example, the conversation is in the scope of the work that governments do, in the scope of the policies, whether it's policies relating to entrepreneurship or agricultural policies or energy policies. How are you thinking about integrating women into these processes and into these policies? So very gender-sensitive policies is what we generally advocate for. The second thing I'll mention is around data. So there's often a very big data gap in the countries that we operate in. Well, in Africa generally, it's oftentimes, even when data is available, it's not disaggregated by gender. So, it's not disaggregated by sex. It's not disaggregated by a lot of things. And what that does is it oftentimes doesn't give you real life data-driven information about how you're performing versus where you need to improve. So I would say that one of the ways to really integrate women and girls is to advocate for gender-sensitive data collection, which will ultimately guide the decisions that people make around how to create impact and drive progress towards the SDGs. There are a host of other things. There's the issue of education. We have issues of gender-based violence and just really putting women and girls at the center of our thoughts, of our thought processes when we make decisions, when we plan programs, as opposed to an afterthought or a footnote.
All right, thank you so much.
If I could just jump in there, so all the gaps she's mentioned, the data gaps, lack of proper information, and all these things, those are actually all opportunities right there, waiting for a lot of young people to come and fill them in. So those are great problems, and it's important that when you speak about data, We have to own the data. The data needs to belong to us. So these are great opportunities. Whenever you hear people saying that we have a challenge here, we have a problem here, what should be going on in your mind is, how can I fix that problem? And how do I come in and how do I take care of that? Okay.
All right. Thank you so much, Honorable Michael. And thank you so much, Fatma, for those insights that you've shared. If you're just joining us on the call, we're speaking about the road to 2030 and accelerating youth action for the SDGs in Africa. And we've identified gaps where we need more power, more action towards achieving the SDGs. We've identified the problems with collaboration or isolated work, isolated action, and the need for us to come together and collaborate to build communities where we can address change from our own parts. We've talked about the problem with including women and girls into the change that we want to make, how we should collect data appropriately to ensure that everyone is included. So now we also have on the call, we have Umar from UNDP, we have Mumbi Kiga, who is from DAO, joining us from Kenya, and we have Honorable Michael Onyango, who is currently in Korea. Thank you so much once again, panelists, for your time. I'll just have a few more questions for you before we call it a day. And I also want to urge those in the chat box, if you do have any questions, our audience, the question and answer session is open for you. We'll be taking questions for either of the panelists that you want to ask any questions from. So I have a second question, and I would like to start from Honorable Michael. He has just spoken. I think I've heard here about two people speak about the COVID-19 and its impact on how we look at sustainability, how we look at the SDGs, and how that pandemic really stopped some action or accelerated other actions towards achieving the SDGs. So my question is, how can these lessons that we learned from the COVID-19 be applied to accelerate SDG attainment and build resilience in Africa? How can we look at this lessons that we learned and use it towards achieving the SDGs? Over to you, Honorable Michael.
Thank you very much. I think COVID taught us as Africa that nobody cares about us. And I'm not going to mince my words about that. We saw the West over-vaccinating themselves and refusing to send us vaccines and only sending them just before they're expired. And I can say this authoritatively because when COVID was right in the deep of it, I did work for Africa CDC. So I was right in the middle and I saw what happened. So let's wake up and let's stop pretending, eh? Let's be factual here. Let's stop thinking or looking to the West because we are not of interest to them. We have to, and young people on this call, please work together. There's nothing in Europe. Stop trying to migrate to grow across that border. There's nothing on that side. Everything is here. We've got the best weather. We've got the best land. We've got the best families, and, as if God would have it, who right now is getting the highest brunt of climate change? Who is? Go to your weather forecasts, whatever channel you watch, whether it's BBC Weather, whether it's ABC News, whether it's CNN, whether it's NHK, go to the international channels and look at what's happening. So when we think about the SDGs, let us start and let us rethink and work with ourselves. Stop fighting amongst yourselves stop fighting amongst yourselves. There's more than enough for each and every single one of us. So we cannot even start saying that what is stopping us from getting to the SDGs if amongst ourselves we cannot even self-organize. So there's some very simple principles. And in any work environment, no matter what and how good you've laid out the plans, no matter how you know where you want to go, if you don't have a team on board that is committed, that is coherent, and that works together, it'll continue being a pipeline and continue being a dream. For those who know me, I'm a straight talker. I don't, I say it as it is. This morning, when I was speaking, the first thing I said in the room, and I told everybody that we're all gathered here to speak about living heritage as UNESCO. But I told them, without me being here and sitting in the room, this conversation is useless, because all of you in this room, your DNA comes from the cradle of mankind, which is in Africa and which is in Kenya. You all migrated to all these other regions, but you all came from Africa. So we need to rethink and stop getting involved in other people's agendas. We've got to be clear. Who are we? What are our agendas? And how do we work collectively, not divided?
All right. Thank you so much, Honorable. Okay, I think he's done now. And I'd like to say that was, I think we can close the session here, if possible, because Honorable Michael has charged us all to think of Africa's agenda. So we are here speaking of achieving the SDGs in Africa. Yes, it's a global agenda, but we're speaking about it in Africa. And we've just heard, or we've been hearing since we came to this session today, that what we need to do is to collaborate. First of all, Africa's youth need to understand that it's our time. We're not leaders of tomorrow. Like, tomorrow is here. We are living in tomorrow. We are living in the future. We are in the future. We are the future. So we need to understand that first, and then come together to think to ourselves, how do we move forward? How do we get something done? How do we change things? How do we ensure sustainability and ensure that the SDGs are achieved for ourselves, for our continent? Because we're here for ourselves. We're here for ourselves at the end of the day. And I think that's the crux of the matter. And I also think that that's the main reason why Leap Africa has put together the Youth Day of Service, to help young people to remember that it's their time, and to start to think of things that they can do in their communities to address the SDGs. So that's very wonderful. Thank you so much, Honorable Michael Onyango. Very thoughtful words that you have said to us today. I have just a couple more questions and we will run. We have just 3 questions. I want all of our panelists to address some more questions and then we move forward. While Honorable Michael was speaking, he spoke about climate change, right? And that's very interesting because that was my next question. And that question was going to be for Mumbi. And the question is, how do we encourage young people to think of climate change as a problem that is worth solving, as a problem that is worth putting some work into? I don't think that Africans really think about climate change, or it's like, oh, it's not really our business. It's for them. So how do we encourage people to start to think about climate change? Thank you, Mumbi. Over to you.
I'll start it this way. When you think you listen to Honorable Nyango. He's really challenging the young people, challenging Africans. By the way, it's true. Please don't go out of Africa. If you cannot be successful in your home continent, please, you won't be successful out there. Stick here, make it work here. And I can tell you, there's no ambition out there. This is where you can learn. Stick with your potholes so that you can learn how to ask your government what it's doing about that pothole. You learn something when you're doing that. Anyway, let's talk about young people. And our young people, and you've seen it, they're very enterprising. We are saying we're very entrepreneurial. And that's something that you cannot find anywhere. So meaning that you are already very many steps ahead in your mindset, the way you think, you make things, you grow small things and you make them really thrive, number one. Number two, look at our parents. During our parents' time, there was nothing about sustainability, climate change. There was no that conversation at all. That conversation has happened during our season, meaning that that conversation is ours. That conversation is truly, truly with us. You don't expect someone else to really look behind and say, okay, well, let that 70-year-old deal with it. No, it cannot be. Actually, it is ours because it is happening during our season, meaning it is for us to take it and go ahead with it. Now, for the young people who are already really thinking about, and you asked me about building businesses. The young people are making business out of sustainability today. Look around in your communities, people recycling plastic to make blocks for building. We have a partnership with Covenant University. They're making a block with plastics and sawdust, and they will take it to market and they will start changing the way we build our homes, as it were. You are using a stone brick. Now today you have a choice to make a plastic sawdust block for your housing, meaning that the young people are at the intersection of change. And we then really need to bring them on board. How do we do that? Bring them to the table. As companies like such as ourselves, we've learned that we do not have the answers of sustainability. We are 125 years old as this company. What do we know about sustainability? It has found us when we are very old as a company, meaning that the young brains that are coming from our universities today, those young brains are the ones that are seeing things that we do not see. Bring them to the table. And then what do you do then? Do what you call maybe like design challenge. Challenge yourselves together. Let them design solutions for those challenges together with you. You'll be so surprised the solutions that are coming from the young people. So truly bring their voice to the table. Don't bring them just because, okay, we were told to be inclusive, so we are bringing the young people, so we have two at our table. No, bring the young people to the table truly and make sure that you engage them and get value out of them. And when you do that and they give you a solution, please take it and use it. Because what we do when we bring young people, we hear them, but because their imagination is big, the imagination is wild. And that is the imagination we need. We feel that we can't accommodate this imagination. We can't because we are not designed this way. We are old school. No, you have got to think about how you take that imagination and use it, test it, and sure enough, it will work. I am seeing very, very young people really going out and designing very good innovations that are really driving sustainability. And for climate change, we need to bring them on board and use them. So we need to bring them to the table. We need to challenge ourselves together with them. We need to bring them and listen to them. And we need to encourage them to really make sure we are celebrating those actions and those wins with them. And once we celebrate the actions that we're making with them and we promote them, for me as an old company, I need to bring the young people and promote and say, look at what this 25-year-old has done. And when you showcase that, it motivates others and others to really imagine, and we create that collaborative effort and we bring those partnerships to thrive and really create that journey for the youth. You empower them, they move, and then you're left to run your business. I think that's how it should be for the young people.
All right. Thank you so much, Mumbi. Thank you so much. We're all young people on this call and we've heard it. We need to challenge ourselves. Think of climate change, think of things that you can do to solve the problems, to ensure sustainability. I would like Fatma to just a little perspective into the matter of youth, African youth owning climate change action, And then I know you had spoken about data and the need to collect data for the SDGs as well. You can just wrap it up there. Yeah, and then we'll be wrapping up. Thank you.
All right. I think we have an abundance of problems in African countries, right? But like Honorable Michael said, it also means an abundance of opportunities. And that also leans into what Mumbi said. So where there are problems, there are opportunities oftentimes. And if we have many of those, then it's just ripe for innovation. You have a lot of young people that are thinking about innovative solutions to problems in their local communities. It doesn't have to be an out-of-the-world solution that is, happening in Silicon Valley, for example. It just sometimes innovation just has to be thinking about how things are done and how you do them better. And we've seen an increasing amount of innovation in this day and age. So my thing would just be to encourage us to really just look at our problems, our immediate challenges, and rethink how we can make those problems, solve those problems. On the data front, I actually saw a question in the chat box, and I would like to respond with that. I'd like to respond to that by saying that generally, when you collect data, between the point of collecting data and decision making, a lot of things happen. If data is collected properly and it's reliable, then it oftentimes provides you with insights on what's going on, what you can do better, what you should stop doing. And insights give you options, and options ultimately provide you with decision-making tools. So you can't go wrong with collecting data. So that's what I would say on that front.
All right, thank you so much, Fatma. We're getting very close to the end of today's session, and I'll just be yielding the floor once again to Mumbi and to Honorable Michael to just say a few words to wrap up everything that you've shared today, everything that you've also heard from your fellow panelists, just something short that we can go ahead today. And I'd like to urge the audience, if you do have any questions, please drop them in the Q&A box, and I'll be taking them. I have one from anonymous attendee, and I will be asking the question right after Mumbi is done. Thank you.
All right, great. Let's close this. There are abundance, as you say, there are too many things that we can talk about today, but let's just agree on one thing. There's something we can all do. And this issue is important, the SDGs are important, but we need to ask ourselves, are we aware even about what we're talking about? Do even our people even understand what these SDGs are about? I wrote somewhere SDG, and someone asked me, what is that? What is that SDG? What does it mean? And I had to explain. You imagine that this is really a normal thing that everybody should be aware, but it is not something that is known. Let's create a bit more awareness around the SDGs and the impact of SDGs. Just recently, we had flooding in Nigeria, drought in East Africa. These things need to be activated and really be told and linked to the things that we are talking about today. From a funding point, we need really to think about how we can fund projects in Africa, think about collaboration and partnerships. These are important because we really need to really move the needle. We need to really make things happen, and we need to collaborate effectively, and we need to bring the governments on board. But let me talk about education and even the role of a 6-year-old, either 10-year-old and the 15-year-old. If we then are talking about this and we're not using the system, the education system, to bring these SDGs or things to do with sustainability and climate change to life, then we are failing. Even as we do that, there's influence in our country, there's influence on young people, that even the younger ones need to start understanding it from a very basic point, how to clean the environment, small things that really make impact. Let's start with the small things, because the small things will then compound to big things. But we need to start small, and we need to include everybody, the 2-year-old, the 6-year-old, the 10-year-old, the 15, the university student, the ones who is working, and for us who are further advanced in our careers. Everybody has to be brought on board. So collaboration, interaction with people, let's educate people, let's really move the needle, and let's partner and drive investments and funding into projects linked to sustainability.
Thank you so much, Mumbi. Thank you so much. The need for inclusion and collaboration as we pursue sustainability and as we pursue the Agenda 2030. Thank you so much. While we listen to Honorable Michael, wrap up his thoughts for today's session, I want to also lead by summarizing this question that we have in the chat box. Anonymous attendee thinks that, the SDG goals is a global discourse, and he's asking, how does Pan-Africanism come to play as we adopt this global conversation? How does, our own African identity, the labels of our heroes past, how does it come all together to be something that we should own? Can we own our Pan-African identity, own the global discourse? How does it all come together? I think that's what the attendee is asking. So, Honorable, you can address this as you wrap up the conversation today. Thank you so much.
Sorry, I quite didn't get the last end of your question. Just repeat that again, please, what he asked.
All right. Okay. So I think this question came in after, you challenge us as Africans to own this struggle, this work towards achieving the SDGs, own it as Africans. So he's asking, he thinks that the SDGs is global discourse, or he or she rather thinks it's a global discourse, and then we're owning it in African light. Is there like a disparity in owning the SDGs as a global thing? Are we taking up people's identity when we have our own African identity and our own agenda to take care of? I don't know. I think that's how I understand this question. It's in the Q&A, and I don't know if you have anything to say to this person.
Okay, I've tried to understand the question, and I think what I'll probably say is that let's not be too obsessed with what everybody else is doing, and let's look inward towards ourselves. Let's be clear about what we want, where we want to go, and let's start having local conversations amongst and within ourselves. You'll be surprised. Right, yes. And yes, I think let me leave it at that. And if I may be allowed to sign off, I need to leave for the airport in 3 hours' time. So, and it's now past 1 here. But thank you, everyone. I've left my contact details on the chat so that if anybody wants to get in touch with me, I am willing to continue engaging. But if I may be excused, and I'm very grateful for Leap Africa for having me on the call. Thank you.
We're so grateful to you. Thank you so much, Honorable Michael. Thank you. If you're still with us, we're talking about the Agenda 2030 and accelerating youth action for the SDGs in Africa. And just to address the question in the box, I think a collection of the things that the panelists have said today will address that. And that is to say that all the goals, all the sustainable development goals are interconnected and they concern all of us. So while it's a global discourse, it's for us as Africans, it's for us as young people. We have people suffering from poverty right next to us in our communities. We have people who are suffering from access to good health, access to good education. We have our water bodies are being polluted. So this is a problem that is for everyone. It's not a global, it's not a United States problem. It's not a China problem. It's a problem that affects all of us. So in setting the agenda, we have to identify that these goals are supposed to solve problems that affect everybody. I think I'm echoing what Fatma said as the call began today. So we're owning these problems as ours. I'd like to thank the panelists, Mumbi and Fatma and Honorable Michael, who has just exited the call, for giving us their time. They have shared immensely how we can race towards 2030 and achieving the SDGs. And I'd like to wrap it up here. We have just about 10 minutes to the end of this program. And I would like to quickly hand over to our host, Ebuka Okona from Leap Africa, Ebuka, you have the floor. Thank you so much once again. Mumbi, thank you, Fatma, for your time and your perspectives. We really appreciate them. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Ebuka, over to you.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much. I don't know where to actually start from, but very big thank you to all of the panelists, starting from Mumbi, Honorable Fatima. Indeed, Africa is in good hands, and there's great hope for our continent, Africa as a whole. Very big thank you to the moderator of the panel session. Thank you very much, Jama, and thank you very much to the panel session panelists. As we wrap up, I know we've had a few questions and answers, but we are almost out of time. But I just want to ask if there are any questions based on the conversation we had. Any questions? I just want you to please kindly raise your hand or ask a question on the Q&A box. So please, very quickly, we'll just take one or two questions and we can wrap up for the day. Any questions, please? Any questions? I think all the questions that were initially asked have been answered. Yeah, so I think we can just go ahead to the next steps and what it means. All right. So thank you very much once again to panelists. Thank you very much to everyone who attended. As we wrap up, just a few information, just a few announcements. For those who have not had the time to actually go to the Youth Day of Service website, which is www.youthdayofservice.org, to register a project or to volunteer a project. We hope that with what you've heard today, you've heard about the urgency of actualizing the SDGs. You've heard about how way back Africa is. We are really at the back in terms of the race to actualize the SDGs, and it is so paramount. It's so important that we begin to talk about this, and we must not just talk about it, but we must walk the talk. And for you to walk the talk, you must actually go to the youthdayofservice.org. My colleague Catherine has put the website on the chat box, www.youthdayofservice.org. Go there, register a project or volunteer for an already registered project. We have more than close to 200 projects registered and more than 500 volunteers already, much more than that already. And we want more people to, take up the spirit of volunteerism and the spirit of active citizenship and community service, because we cannot do it all our own. Like what Mubi said, we must come together, collaborate. They are physical borders, line borders, but we are all one Africa. Nigeria, Ghana, Cameroon, Sierra Leone, Mali, South Africa, every single country, young Africans must come together, must rise up together to actually actualize these SDGs. I think the only thing left to speak about is the fact that we'll be having an onboarding session for all the volunteers and all the project leads. The information and the dates will be shared with you in the coming days. Please be on the lookout. We hope you've learned one or two things from this webinar. We're really glad that you stayed up to the end. Before I close, I would like to ask Catherine, is there anything you'd like to add before I round up?
Thank you so much, Ebuka. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. I think that we're good with time. We just have 6 more minutes to go, but I will, just like Ebuka have asked us to do earlier, go over to www.youthdayofservice.org to join the action. All right, thank you.
All right, thank you very much, and have a wonderful day. African youths are the future of Africa. We are not the leaders of tomorrow. We are the leaders of today. And I'd like to use this opportunity as we close out to say a very big thank you to our sponsor and our partner, Dow, for seeing the vision of the Youth Day of Service, to see this big, broad vision and ensuring that they support it in every way possible. Thank you very much, Dow. Thank you for staying with us for one more year. I mean, we can't do this without you, actually. You saw the vision, you ran with it. And we know we will do more in the coming years, but we just want to say thank you. This year is just the beginning, and there's so much to achieve this year. If you've once again appeal to our brothers and sisters all across Africa, from the mountains of Algiers to the rivers in Zambia. Please, if you haven't queued up, if you haven't gone to the website, www.udfservice.org to register a project or voluntary project, Africa is in our hands. There is no second Africa. Like we say in the United Nations, there is no second planet, there is no planet B, and there is no plan B. Let's go out there and do the best we can for the Africa we want. Thank you very much, and God bless you. Have a wonderful evening. Adios.
Here we are as a people with one heart for one cause. We're determined to rebuild and restore. Where freedom rise and truth prevails. Our land where there's hope for us all. Our land where there's hope for us all. We'll defend our land. We believe in this nation, and we know we'll get there. We'll defend our land. We believe in Nigeria and the promise she holds, and that one day we'll shine like the sun. We're a great nation. Though we are many people, different tribes, different tongues, we're united